What's up everybody, this is Taylor with KC and today we have a very exciting video for you all. We are going to be doing a mini comparison of some of our 6-inch round lights. And this is one of those topics that we've been asked a lot about, so we are very excited to be covering this topic. Now we have one light in each price point. So we're starting off with the Apollo Pro Halogen light. And then right in the middle we have our SlimLite LED. And then finally we have our Gravity LED Pro6 light. So we're going to be going over some of the similarities and the differences of these lights, and then we're going to be showing you some of the output both real world outside in the forest and then also on our light wall upstairs. So let's go ahead and start with the similarities of these three lights. All right, so let's get into some of the similarities of all three of these lights. Number one, of course, they are all KC lights. Number two, of course, they're all round lights. And number three, they're all 6-inch in diameter lights. So those are just some of the key things that link all three of these together and put them in the same category. But first, you may be asking yourself, what is the best use for these lights, or what is the best location to mount these on my vehicle? Now, one of the most popular places to mount any one of these three lights is on your front bumper. These are going to give some really nice forward-facing lighting. Now, another really common place to put any one of these three lights is on your A-pillars. You'll be able to either aim them forward and get some nice forward lighting out of it, or you can kick them out just a little bit to the sides and get some nice periphery or ditch lighting on the A-pillar location. So now one other commonality that links all three of these together is that these are all spot beam patterns. Now I'm using that just for the sake of this video. Both the Apollo Pro Halogen and the Gravity LED Pro6 light, these are offered in different beam patterns, whereas the SlimLite LED is only available in a spot beam pattern. But again, for this video, we are all gonna go with spot beams for these lights. So now that we know some of the similarities of all three of these lights, let's dive right into what the differences of them are. So there are a lot of similarities that link all three of these lights together, but there are just as many differences amongst them. So we're going to start just going straight down the line with these three lights. This is once again the Apollo Pro Halogen light, and that says a lot right there. This is a halogen light, whereas both of these are LED lights. So it's just a different light source, a different technology that's used to get the light down range. Now this one right here, visually, this has our stone guard, as does the SlimLite LED, but the stone guard on the Apollo Pro is built right into the light and it's not removable. Now on the other hand, the stone guard on the SlimLite LED, it is removable, so you can take that off right there. You can run the light with the stone guard on, or you can run it with it off just like this. Now the Pro6 also has a cover on it, but this is not a stone guard. It is a completely opaque cover, so that means no light shines through it at all. So let's get into some of the specifications of these lights. This one, once again, is a halogen light, and it's drawing 100 watts, so it's drawing a lot more power than either of the LED lights. This is one single bulb that pulls 100 watts per light. Now this right here, the SlimLite LED, this is a 50-watt light, so it's about half the power consumption as the halogen light is, and this one actually has 12 internal LED chips that you can see right here. Now, at the opposite end of the spectrum is the Gravity LED Pro6. Once again, it's an LED light, but this one is actually only drawing 20 watts. So this one is the most efficient and it draws the least amount of power of all three of these lights, yet this is able to perform just as well, if not better than all three of these lights, simply because of the technology that's baked into the light itself. This light, our Pro6 light, uses our gravity reflective diode technology, and that's where we take the LED chip, so we take actually two of them, and we point it backwards and we aim it at the reflector here, where we're able to utilize that massive surface area, that massive, nice, shiny, polished area to really be able to collect an intense beam pattern that aims light really far down range. So this one right here, 20 watt, this is a 50 watt, and this is a 100 watt light. One of the other really big differences of these lights is the materials that are used to create the light itself. So the Apollo Pro light actually has a glass lens inside of it, whereas both of these use a polycarbonate lens. The other thing that makes these different in terms of their construction is that the Apollo Pro light uses a black Polymax housing, whereas the SlimLite LED and the Gravity LED Pro6 both use an aluminum housing that's black, that's UV coated. This one you can see the heat sink, the heat fins on the back here, and then on the Pro6 you can also see the heat fins on this that are designed a little bit more like a turbine to help wind flow through it and flow smoothly over it. That helps minimize any wind noise. So those are some of the big differences here, is that these two use a polycarbonate lens, this is a glass lens, this is a Polymax housing, whereas these are both aluminum housings. So another big difference of these lights goes hand in hand with that total wattage that we were just talking about, and that's the lumen rating for these lights. Now, just strictly going off the lumen rating, the Gravity LED Pro6 is at 2300 lumens, and the Apollo Pro is at 2452 lumens per light for each of these, and the SlimLite LED actually has a lumen rating per light of 7,260, but the lumen rating doesn't exactly tell the entire story. Now, I'm not going to get into it in this video, but if you click the card up here in this corner, you'll be able to learn more about different terms that we use to measure the output of light, such as lumens, lux, and candela. Now that said, now that we know some of the lumen ratings for all of these three lights, let's dive right into what the lux ratings are for all of these. We'll start in the center. The SlimLite LED has a lux value of 2,500, which is the highest of all three of these. Next in line is the Gravity LED Pro6, which has a lux value of 2,150. And then on the other side of the spectrum, which is the halogen light, coming in very close to these two, has a lux rating of 1,962. Now, they all have very similar lux ratings, which means they're all going to perform quite well in the outdoors, in the real world, and a lot of that is attributed to the fact that they are a spot beam light. So they all have a very concentrated hotspot that's meant to throw light out really far downrange. But one other thing to consider with all three of these lights is that they have drastically different amounts of power draw. So the Pro6 is only drawing 20 watts per light, and it's keeping up with these other lights. This one is a 50 watt light, so more than double the power draw as the Pro6, and the halogen light, the Apollo Pro, is a 100 watt light, so it's 5 times more draw than the Pro6. So now that we know some of the main similarities and some of the differences of all three of these lights, let's go ahead and go upstairs. Let's show you what the output of each of these three lights looks like on a wall. And then after that, we're gonna put these on my Tacoma, we're gonna mount them up, and then we're gonna drive around the forest so you can get a better idea of what these lights look like when you're gonna be using them on your vehicle. Now on our light grid, we'll show you what all three of these lights look like when placed at the exact same distance away and aimed at the same place. First up on the light wall is our single Apollo Pro Halogen, once again in the spot beam pattern. You can see that the halogen light makes the beam a bit more yellow in color, meaning that it's lower on the Kelvin scale. The next thing that you'll notice is that while it is a spot beam, it does have a slightly wider rather than vertical beam. Next up is a SlimLite LED, once again in the spot beam pattern. You can see that the light color is much more white than the halogen was, and you'll also notice that while there is still a center hotspot, which is going to throw light out really far, there's also much more fill lighting, which lights up much more of the grid emanating from that center hotspot. And finally, we have the Gravity LED Pro6 single light in a spot beam. This light is also white in color, and on the grid you can tell that this is a true spot beam, as it has a very intense hotspot throughout the entire beam pattern, covering 5 degrees both horizontally and vertically. And now we took photos of all three of the beams and placed them side by side so that you can see exactly how they compare to one another. All right, so this is my Toyota Tacoma, and I'm going to be installing each of the 3 different pairs of lights right here on my front bumper. We're going to start off with the Apollo Pros, then we'll do the SlimLights after that, and then we are going to finish off with the Pro6 LEDs. I'm going to do the same section of trail, same night, everything, try and keep the conditions as similar as possible, just so you guys can get the best example of what these lights are going to look like out on the trail. Once the sun went down, I went out and got some nighttime output shots, and I started off with the Apollo Pros that give that added long-range visibility right in the center. You can see that I have my headlights and fog lights turned on for that short to mid-range fill lighting, and I occasionally would turn the Apollo lights on and off so that you can see the difference that they make. Just make a note here that all 3 of the upcoming sets of lights were all aimed in the exact same position. And now here's just a little bit of a different camera angle. Before, the GoPro was mounted onto the windshield, and now the GoPro is mounted on the top hoop of my front bumper right next to the lights. Next up is the SlimLite LED, which you can see are mounted in the exact same place as the Apollo Pros were, hanging off of the top hoop of my front bumper there, and are aimed in the exact same place as well. Once again, just to keep everything consistent, here is that same camera angle that you saw on the Apollo Pros in the second shot. And to finish it off, we have the pair pack of the single Gravity LED Pro6 lights, once again in spot beam, just as the other 2 pair of lights were that you just saw. And I apologize here because I had the aim just slightly off on both of the Pro6s. Each one should have been aimed slightly higher and then also just a hair inwards. Once again, here is that lower mounted camera angle. And with that, that's all we have for you today. Hopefully this comparison really helps you out in your buying process. If you've enjoyed this video, please click the like button to show your support. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing to our channel so that you can catch more of the videos that we put out. Thanks everyone for watching, and remember to adventure further.